Hey, friends! Just so you know, we enjoy the swear word and we rely on good old fashioned humor to get through some seriously dark subject matter. At no time do we intend any disrespect toward the victims or families of the victims in the cases we cover. Also, be sure to listen to the end for a few palate cleansing bloopers to reset your mindset. And with that, we thank you for listening and we hope you enjoy.
Hey, friends. Welcome to Crime Will Tell. Jamie and Carrie here.
Hello!
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's beautiful out. This is my weather. Finally, it has arrived.
I feel like it's hot and muggy as hell outside. It is
Oh,
humid.
yeah, no, definitely extreme heat warnings all over the place in the upper Midwest. So
Yeah.
you are not wrong. So
She's a
she's
little,
she's wet.
yeah, you just walk outside and, yeah. But it feels amazing temp wise. So, since it's hot and muggy, and also because what we're about to talk about is in regards to a very horrific murder and a big frustrating cover up, I think that we should have like a nice cold drink.
Mm.
So, what you sipping on?
I am sipping on a Paloma over ice.
Oh,
And it is refreshing and
it
it's
looks
perfect.
icy and
Empty? Yeah, it looks empty.
delicious. Yeah. Do you need to go make another one?
I do. But before I do that, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking some THC infused.
Hell yeah. Was it THC infused or did you add the THC?
It's like it comes in like a liquor bottle, and you
Ah.
take a shot of the drink. It tastes like nothing, but it's THC infused, and you can put it in anything. So
Oh, wicked.
yeah, it's very
So
very
my
nice.
Paloma could have been double duty.
Absolutely, yeah.
Motherfucker.
You can
I
put
was
it in
just
chocolate fucking
betrayed.
milk. I wouldn't,
Hell yeah.
maybe that's
I
gross,
don't know
but
that I would recommend that.
cheers to you, my friend.
Cheers, my friend. Clink.
Clink. So, this case begins with a strange and alarming phone call to 911 in Campbell, Ohio. If you're not familiar, Campbell sits just outside of Youngstown, Ohio. And if you're not familiar with Youngstown, Ohio, it's a small city on the eastern side of the state near like the Pennsylvania border. And so it sits kind of halfway between Cleveland and Pittsburgh.
The first thing I thought of when you were like, if you're not familiar with Youngstown, and I was like, one of the original 13 colonies. Oh my God, Carrie. Geography is not my friend. We are not friends. My bad.
So on July 29th of 2017, a man called 911, and with panic in his voice, like you can hear this call, he told the dispatcher that he needed police to come to his house because he had just found a dead body in his freezer.
Oh,
Yeah.
I take
What
it
now?
that was
Yeah,
unexpected.
correct.
Holy shit.
I'm sure 911 dispatchers hear some wild shit, but I bet that that was a first, or hopefully a first, and hopefully the last call with that sort of pickle of someone in that area. The call came from a man named Ken Eschenbaugh, and he and his wife Jill had just found a dead female body in their
Mm,
deep freezer. This body had not been put there by either of them, so they're, of course, horrified and incredibly confused. If you're wondering how a corpse made it into their home without their knowledge, you're
yeah.
not alone. Because I was like, how does that happen? Because in my mind, I was like picturing a certain house and a certain freezer and whatever. Two things about this made it very unique. So the
Okay.
first was the unique setup of this house. The basement had a separate entrance on the back of their home. So you couldn't access the basement from the main part of the house. Basically, like if you wanted to get to the basement, you had to walk around to the back of the house. There were a
Oh,
couple
okay.
steps that went down to a door, and then you entered from there. So it was kind of its own separate thing. So
Okay.
it's not like somebody was just like, ding dong, just coming through, just throwing some shit in the freezer. I'll be out of here in a
Mm,
minute. Like it wasn't
okay.
anything like that. So when you walked into the basement, pretty much right ahead of you was a large white chest freezer, just kind of your standard deep freezer that a lot of people have for storing extra food. You can also store bodies, I suppose, if that's your situation. The freezer was 3 feet by 3 feet and appeared to be very, very new.
So it's a little guy.
Yeah, but I mean, there's still like the big, tall,
Yeah.
big, but it was just more square than like
Sure.
rectangular. At first glance, it was nothing out of the ordinary, but someone had installed a latch on the freezer that was locked with a padlock. Pretty weird, but I was thinking about it, and if maybe that basement door wasn't super secure, someone might lock their freezer to keep food from being stolen if somebody
Mm-hmm.
broke in, whatever. I could see that happening. But when the frozen goods are human remains, it becomes a little more suspicious. So obviously, this call comes in. Police were dispatched to the home and enter the basement. On the ground in front of that freezer was a large trash bag. When officers opened the bag, they saw a human foot and quickly realized that this was a dismembered body that had
Mm.
been placed in trash bags and then locked inside of this freezer. So officers were obviously like, ew, and also what the balls is going on. So they go to talk to the Eschenbaus. This was their home.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're like, what's up with your freezer? And they learned that 5 days earlier, their friend Anthony had asked them if he could put his freezer in their basement.
Oh, that's not
So
even their
that's
fucking freezer?
right. So separate entrance, didn't even belong to them. Those are kind of the two things that, like, okay, I obviously they didn't know what was going on. And so their friend Anthony had allegedly lost power at his house and didn't want his freezer full of meat to spoil. And yeah. And so this was a close friend of theirs. They'd known him for years, someone they trusted. And so they were like, yeah, sure, bring it on over. The basement's
Absolutely.
all yours.
How can we help?
On July 29th of 2017, Jill Eschenbaugh was getting ready to make dinner. And she was like, I'm going to make spaghetti, but she didn't have any meat to make meatballs. So instead of going out to the store, she's like, you know what? I'll just go down there and see if there happens to be any ground beef in Anthony's freezer. And then I'll just, replace whatever I
Yeah.
use. So she goes down to the basement. First, she had to bypass the lock on the Fort Knox freezer, and it was installed upside down. So she was able to just use like a butter knife
Oh
to
my
unscrew the
gosh.
screws on the latch. Didn't have to mess with the padlock or anything. She could just
She just took it right down.
unscrew the
Yeah.
latch basically. But she didn't find anything that would work for dinner that night. Instead, when she opened the freezer, she just saw black trash bags. She didn't open them. Something just didn't feel right about that. So she called her husband, Ken, and she's like, bad news. We aren't having spaghetti for supper. And also, there is some really weird shit happening in that fucking freezer in our basement. So when he got home, he went down to the basement, opened the freezer, and started to open the bags. And he said that the smell just
Oh.
hit him when he opened them,
Oh.
just kicked him right in the fucking nose.
Uh,
And when he saw
oh,
what appeared to be human remains, he immediately called 911. And the poor guy, like, if you listen to the 911 call, you can tell he is just
struggling.
freaking
Yeah.
out. Like, I felt so bad for him. And that, like, there's interviews that I saw with him, he's crying. Like, I think they were just fucking devastated. And I mean, they're tied to a crime now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, their home is a crime scene. Like,
And the betrayal by their friend.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
huge betrayal. Like
exactly. It's like,
huge.
you took advantage of our kindness, you fucker.
I'm I have grief over the fact that that poor freezer was likely just purchased to be a grave.
Yeah, we'll get into that as well.
I don't know that any real food legitimately has seen the inside of that thing.
Yeah, I don't think there were like dinosaur nuggets and tater tots and popsicles packed around the body. So, as police began the horrifying task of searching through these trash bags, they discovered the dismembered limbs of a female body. Some of the other parts were missing, including the head,
Mm,
which made identifying the body even more difficult. But they did notice that on one of the feet was a scorpion tattoo.
mm,
So detectives were like, let's see if there's any open missing person cases that could maybe be linked to this victim. And they learned about a 28-year-old woman named Shannon Graves who had last been seen in February of 2017. So that would have been like 5 months
okay.
before this was
Yeah,
discovered.
because this was late July.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Shannon Graves was also known as Star to her friends and family. She was described as a free spirit, just somebody who loved big. She had dreams of becoming a hairstylist and she had just graduated from cosmetology school. Things seemed to be going really well for her. She was independent and, was on the verge of making her cosmetology dreams come true. She had an adorable dog named Molly, a beautiful little blue pitty, and she had a boyfriend, 31-year-old Arturo Novoa. The couple met in April of 2016, so the year before, and they began living together in her apartment in September of that year. They seemed to be really happy, not surprising when you're, haven't been together for super
Mm,
long. It's usually sunshine and smiles in the beginning. But unbeknownst to most people, Arturo was already abusive to Shannon. And
mm,
so, not wanting to deal with this bullshit, they had split up in December, so just a few months after he'd moved in. So he moved out of the apartment, then he moved back in a week later. It was
mm.
tumultuous to say the
Volatile.
least. They were kind of like on and off,
Mm-hmm.
but it seemed like she was ready to move on from Arturo. Shannon wasn't super active on social media and just wasn't the kind of person who was constantly on their phone. People didn't always expect to get like a lightning fast response from her. So it wasn't unusual to go like short periods without hearing from her. But after she had missed multiple family gatherings, her
Mm.
birthday, and just other celebrations, like her family became very worried about her. Her father reached out to Arturo to check on his daughter. He's like, have you seen Shannon? But Arturo told him that Shannon had met another guy and had just packed up and moved to Cleveland, Ohio to be with him. I doubt it for Arturo, especially
Fuck
because she didn't take any of her belongings. She didn't take her car. And most importantly, she didn't take her dog, Molly, who she would have never left behind. Like that dog was her baby and was with her all the time. Arturo claimed that Shannon had asked him to watch Molly for her and said, that he could use her car and he could stay in the apartment while she was gone. Like, just very accommodating for somebody that just left you. Okay. That smells like a giant pile of bullshit
it.
because it was. And at one point, Shannon's brother had texted her phone and got a response back that was like, "Who's this? Like, I don't know this number." So someone obviously had her phone and was using her
Huh.
phone, but they couldn't get in touch with her. So her family grew more and more concerned about her whereabouts and her safety. Her sister officially reported her missing in June, 4 months after she had last been seen. But there were also reports coming in of people claiming to have seen Shannon. So this was like really confusing. No one could actually get in touch with her, but people seemed to be seeing her, or at least someone who looked a lot like her, driving her car around town, going in and out of her apartment, but no one could get in touch with Shannon.
Wait. They were seeing someone going in and out of her apartment that looked like her, but they couldn't
Yeah,
get in
like
touch
just
with her?
from a distance, they were like, "Oh, that must be Shannon getting in her car or going in the apartment."
Okay.
Like, probably just similar hair, whatever,
Sure.
I don't
Okay.
know, but, like, no one could reach her, no one had
She
actually,
wasn't
like,
responding.
spoken to her. Yeah. So it was, like, just
Did
kind of
anyone try to go to
confusing.
her apartment?
Yeah, and no one would
Okay.
answer, but they would
Oh,
hear the dog barking inside. And around this time is when reports came in about that body being found in the freezer in Campbell. So, obviously, her friends and family feared that this body was possibly Shannon. And when they learned about the description, they knew it was her because Shannon had a scorpion tattoo on her foot, which, like I said, matched the one that was found on the body. The remains were confirmed to be Shannon using fingerprints and eventually DNA. So Shannon
man.
wasn't hanging out with some new boyfriend in another city. Her life was cut short in a very gruesome way. Following her autopsy, the cause of death was determined to be homicide by unspecified means.
They
So
couldn't
they,
figure out.
yeah, they didn't have
Man.
enough of her body to, figure out what had happened. So who the hell killed Shannon? And who the hell was seen driving her car and living in her apartment? Investigators tracked down Anthony Gonzalez, the man who had moved the freezer into his friend's basement. And they learned that Anthony Gonzalez is actually Arturo Novoa,
What?
Shannon's boyfriend. Yeah. So
What?
Arturo, Shannon's boyfriend, was known to other people as Anthony.
Okay.
While detectives questioned Arturo, he denied taking a freezer to the Eschenbach's home and storing it in their basement. And like, as he's denying it, the keys to the fucking padlock on the freezer are in his pocket.
Hilarious.
When officers called him out and were like, "You're a stupid liar. There's no way you didn't move that freezer knowing good and goddamn well what was inside of it, while feeling the need to lock it so no one discovered what was inside." And after worrying that he was going to lose, I believe, what was a dishwashing job at Outback Steakhouse, this bloomin' asshole asked for a lawyer. So
Oh my
finally he's
God. No,
like,
you did not. No, you did not.
uh,
That was
I
great. That
did.
was great.
I did.
That was
Yep.
great.
Investigators had been going to Shannon's apartment, but no one would answer, like I'd mentioned before, even though her car was there and her dog Molly could be heard barking inside.
Yeah,
So they're like, obviously someone's been living here,
exactly.
but they couldn't get anyone to come to the door. But detectives quickly learned that the woman who had been seen in Shannon's car and at her apartment was 34-year-old Katrina Layton, and she was Arturo's new girlfriend and the single mother of two children. Katrina's car had been parked on the street outside of Shannon's apartment for a very considerable amount of time because she was driving Shannon's car, and her car ended up being towed because it had expired tags. So it was just like
Oh my
chilling on the
God.
street with expired tags. Her car getting towed is what actually got her ass in a chair in an interrogation room where she could be questioned by
Love
detectives.
it.
Just like her boyfriend Arturo, she was good at playing dumb. She had heard something about Shannon going missing, but wasn't following the case too closely. And she told detectives that when she moved into Shannon's apartment, all of her stuff was already gone, except for the dog Molly. And so she just kept like playing Miss Innocent, doesn't know anything. And it's
Hmm.
like, Katrina, fuck off. So detectives learned that there was a pretty nasty love triangle happening between Arturo, Shannon, and Katrina. Arturo had actually been dating Katrina on and off for several years. Like, I think like 8 years or something. They were
Oh
just
shit.
on and
Long
off. Like,
term.
basically he would date other women, and when those relationships ended, he would go back to Katrina. Like, he was like, she was his
She was the old
fallback.
standby.
Yeah, and probably the sucker that always took him back. So he took advantage of her. She was completely obsessed with him, just a recipe for disaster. So,
Of
not
course.
surprisingly, it did not go over well when Katrina learned that Arturo was dating Shannon. At some point, Arturo decided that he would just start sleeping with Katrina again while in a relationship with Shannon, which is just such a dick move. He
Mm-hmm.
was playing with their emotions while getting everything he wanted from both of them. And investigators learned that he was also seeing at least three other women,
Oh,
just
jeez.
using all of them. He's just a gross dude, taking advantage of all of these women. And so, as they're digging into all of this, the detectives also learned that someone had been using Shannon's EBT. Someone had been using Shannon's EBT food assistance card,
Oh,
and that card had been used at the same time as Arturo's card, linking them. They discovered that Katrina had purchased the freezer from a Walmart earlier
oh,
that
okay.
month.
Okay. Okay.
When police received the missing person report for Shannon, they searched her apartment, trying to find any evidence of where she might have gone or check for any signs of foul play. And that search was done on July 25th of 2017. So this was before her body
July
had been
29th.
discovered.
Yeah.
So at this point,
So
it
that
was
was
just a
four
missing
days
persons
before her body.
case.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Okay.
they're just like for her family, like trying to track her down. And that was also the same day that the freezer had been moved. So while they were doing that search of her apartment, investigators did notice that there were some drops of blood on the wall above where they believe now where that freezer would have been in the apartment. Like
Mm,
once they went back, they're like, I bet this is where the freezer was.
okay.
And the blood was later confirmed to be Shannon's. They also discovered the owner's manual for the freezer that the body had been found in. So, like, these things are all being connected, and lots of the pieces were falling into place in the like who done
Yeah.
it puzzle. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, so wow, that's interesting. So, like, the search was done before, but it like a few days later, they were like, aha, these things all made sense and they could connect all these things together. So anyway, back to the interrogation with Katrina, which there again are videos of this, and I find her so incredibly annoying. Detectives were pretty much done listening to her deny knowing anything about what happened to Shanna. Like just immediately, she's just playing dumb and I didn't know anything. And they just were like not having her bullshit like out of the gate, and I loved it. So she was trying to come across kind of cute and innocent when they would ask about the freezer. She'd be like, "What freezer? I know nothing. What are you talking about?"
Like over the top or like
Yes.
legit?
Yeah,
Okay.
just like, what do you mean?" Like trying like her
Mm-hmm.
actress came out in full force. A detective finally was like, "You know what? I've mentioned about 10 times that there was a dead woman in your freezer, and you haven't seemed shocked by that or really had much of a reaction at all to
Yeah.
that news." And he's like, "That says a lot to me." And she's like, "What freezer?" Just
Oh my God.
it's so stupid. And finally, they were like, "Look, Shannon's body was found in the freezer that we now know you purchased.
Mm-hmm.
You are now living in her apartment with all of her belongings,
Driving
driving
her
her
car.
car, yeah, using her cell phone. We think you're fucking involved."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
at that moment, the idiot slipped and she said, "You're sitting here telling me that there's a body in the freezer that I did not take to Kenny's house."
Who the fuck is
And
Kenny?
Ken Eschenbach, the guy that found the body in the freezer. So the detective was like, "We never mentioned where Shannon's body was discovered." And she's like, "But you just said it was the basement." And so they were like, "We never mentioned anything about Kenny's house." Again, this is Ken Eschenbach. And then old Fumbletits tried to, just talk her way out of it, but she couldn't, and she knew it. You could tell she was just like, ah, and this is when one of the detectives gets up and he just puts cuffs on her foot and handcuffs her foot to the table in the interrogation room and then just walks out, leaving her all by herself. And it's fucking fantastic. And you can tell that like reality sits in for her and she knew she was in trouble. her mom was apparently sitting out in the hallway, like outside of the interrogation room, and she just starts yelling. And she's like, it's totally like, Mom, where's the meatloaf from Wedding
Yeah, Wedding
Crashers?
Crashers.
And, but she's like, Mom, they're saying there's a body in the freezer that I didn't move. And like very mumbled, you can hear her mom like, uh-huh, I love you, I'll be back.
Oh my God.
So she's like losing her shit, and her mom's like, oh, okay, whatever. And I enjoyed it immensely. I really love watching bad people who think that they are smarter than everyone else not get away with shit and get knocked down a few pegs. And it was just like, it was very satisfying. So Arturo and Katrina were both arrested and charged with abuse of a corpse. They weren't immediately charged with murder because at that time Shannon's cause of death was still undetermined, so they couldn't
Okay.
officially charge them with the murder. But the more detectives learned about what happened to her, the more horrifying this case became. Katrina's best friend was interviewed, and she told detectives that Katrina had confided in her and told her that Arturo had killed his ex-girlfriend kind of at this point. Like I think it was on and off, but
On and off.
yeah, so we'll say ex-girlfriend. Um, but Katrina said that she had to stay with Arturo and be there as a support for him because he was potentially going to be in a lot of trouble. First of all, no shit. And also, if the guy you're seeing kills his ex-girlfriend, fucking run and don't stick around and support him. So this friend of Katrina's then relayed to the detectives what Katrina had told her had happened to Shannon,
Okay. I was
if
wondering if
that makes
she
sense.
had, like, yes, told the whole
Yeah, so
thing
she's
or.
she's like, Arturo did it and here's how it fucking went down. So, according to this friend, on February 24th of 2017, Arturo attacked and killed Shannon in her apartment. I believe this was like in the bathroom of her
Okay.
apartment. And he ended up beating her to death with a hammer, striking her in the
Uh.
forehead above her right eye, basically just caving her head
Oh.
in.
Oh.
And then Arturo asked his little lapdog Katrina for help moving the body. And of course, she's like, sure, I love you. I need to support you. He then shaved Shannon's head, like completely bald, and they placed her body in trash bags and moved her to the trunk of her own car. They then drove Shannon's car to the house that Katrina was renting and backed in, dumped the body on the floor of her garage.
Jesus.
So they've got this body in Katrina's garage. Arturo then reached out to his friend Andrew Herman via Facebook Messenger, asking his little buddy for help. Now, Andrew was described by one of the detectives as being a real weirdo, which I also loved. And he went by the nickname DNA, which stands for Dead Necrophiliac Assassin.
What? Oh,
Awesome. Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Way
Dead
to go, Andrew.
necrophiliac assassin.
Assassin.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay.
Cool, right?
I
So
mean,
if you needed help getting rid of a body, Andrew was apparently your
a
guy.
guy to call. Yeah.
Arturo reached out to Andrew and basically it was just like, hey, buddy, I need your help with a problem. Like, I've got this
Yeah.
problem.
Andrew,
You're the solution.
you are the guy.
Yeah. And he was like, be right over. And so Andrew arrived at Katrina's house and Arturo had him look inside the trash bags in the garage where he saw Shannon's body. He later told detectives that she was completely naked, had been shaved completely bald, and that the front of her head was absolutely caved in. And Arturo then turned to Andrew and said, we need to make her smaller. This
Fuck.
was the moment when Andrew should have gotten the fuck out of there and contacted police. But instead, he was like, guys, I got to run home real quick. I'll be right back. I'm going to go get my machete
Oh my God.
so he could cut up Shannon's body. And that's what he did. He went
And that's
home,
how
he got
she fit
his,
into a 3x3 freezer.
yeah,
Oh
he
my
went and got
God.
his machete, came back to Katrina's house. She gave him some trash bags and duct tape so they could cover the floor and walls of the garage and, protect it from getting blood. If you've seen Dexter, it's
I
like
was just
how
gonna
he
say
did his
Dexter style.
rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kill rooms.
Fuck.
Then Andrew dismembered Shannon's body using his machete while Arturo assisted and held a flashlight for him so he could see what he was doing. I don't know if the garage didn't have power or if they were just trying to be covert and did it by
Mm. Mm-hmm.
flashlight
Mm-hmm.
on your phone kind of shit, but ugh,
My God.
it's just icky. As they're dismembering the body, they start placing them in storage totes. So, again, as detectives are just putting all of this together, they learned that Katrina, using the name Chicken Man, why I don't fucking know, but she ordered 12 gallons of sulfuric acid. She used in store pickup, so
Oh
she
my
had to go
God.
and pick it up.
Oh my
And she didn't
God.
use a real name. Chicken Man is not her birth name. So the employee was like, I need to see some
I
ID. She
can't with
used
this. I
she
can't
used her
with this.
actual ID. Like, had she used her actual ID in order for the items to actually be released to her.
Oh my
And
God.
she used her credit card to
Mm.
pay
Mm.
for the 12
Okay.
gallons of
Of
sulfuric
sulfuric
acid.
acid. Okay.
Going
Okay.
through her search history on her phone, they found that she had also been doing searches for 55-gallon drums and plastic totes and what sort of containers you needed to have to withstand the sulfuric acid. So these dumb snails just left a crime trail all over the fucking place. Arturo and Katrina, if you didn't guess where this was going, actually, in some reports I saw that it was Arturo and Katrina that did this, and some it said Arturo and Andrew. But regardless, Arturo and one of his people used sulfuric acid to dissolve Shannon's head and torso.
Oh my God.
Only a
Oh my
portion
God.
of her skull remained, which was then placed into the trash bags along with her arms and legs.
Oh my
So,
God.
yeah, in those bags they found her limbs and a portion of her skull. And then
Oh,
those bags were placed in a freezer inside of Shannon's apartment. Andrew and Arturo went to a friend's house on March 1st. So this was a little time had passed. This wasn't like the same day or anything. So they went to this friend's house because they wanted to burn some things in their fire pit. So they were like, hey, can we come over, have a bonfire? We've got some shit that we want to burn. They showed up with a tote bag filled with clothing and papers and some other items that they said they needed to burn. When that friend later looked, just kind of in the fire pit and the remains of the fire, they found a bracelet that had beads on it that spelled out Shannon's name,
oh my God.
along
Oh my
with
God.
hairpins and what appeared to be like buttons from clothing. So the friend was like, this doesn't seem fucking right to me. They scooped out all of the remnants and ashes from the fire and placed them in a laundry basket so that detectives could search through those. So
Wow.
they
Okay.
were at least had the,
Kudos. Yep.
yeah, they were like, I know these guys, they're friends, but I'm not getting wrapped up in
Yeah.
this shit.
Fuck no.
So these clowns were obviously trying to get rid of the items that Shannon was likely wearing when
Fuck.
she was attacked and murdered. Thankfully, their friend came forward and alerted the authorities. They later learned that all of Shannon's hair that Arturo had shaved off was also in that bag and had been burned in the fire,
Mm.
which I don't know why that detail just kind of just makes my
It's
stomach drop.
jarring.
Yeah. When detectives searched Shannon's car, the pan of like the trunk had been cracked and caved in a little bit, like something heavy had been placed in it,
Oh,
confirming the story that Arturo and Katrina had placed
yeah.
her body in her
Body.
car to transport it. So, like, things that they heard or whatever, like, they're finding the evidence to confirm all of these pieces that just make
Wow.
them guilty as fuck. Arturo and Katrina ended up moving most of Katrina's stuff into Shannon's apartment, where they just began living together. And
Ew,
they
creepy.
concocted this bullshit story that Shannon had met another guy and just up and left to go live with him in Cleveland. Like, this was what they were sticking with. The horrible duo just went on living their lives in Shannon's apartment along with her remains.
Oh my
Like, how they could just mosey by a freezer filled with human parts is beyond me. And Katrina's 2 children were also living
I
there
was
with
gonna
them.
ask if the children were there.
Yeah, which was probably part of the reason that they had to keep it locked, because you don't want some kid going to get a bomb
Mm-hmm.
pop and finding a
How old were the
fucking
kids?
foot. I couldn't find anything that had details about her kids. The only thing I knew that was one of them was special needs.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Initially, there was a little bit of confusion because Shannon was missing for 5 months. So, since February. But when they're tracking down all these pieces, Katrina and Arturo didn't buy the freezer like that she was found in until July.
Oh,
Based on the condition of her remains, the medical examiner determined that they had likely been frozen soon after she was killed. So detectives are kind of like, walk us through this. Like, where the hell was her body stored for 4 months?
yeah.
And so they ended up learning that the freezer they had originally been using had stopped working. So they must have had a
Oh,
freezer or borrowed
okay.
one or something. In June, Shannon's friends and family really began questioning Arturo about Shannon's whereabouts. So this was when the heat was like kind of picking up about like finding her. And then once the police became involved, and they're trying to find her. They're coming around the apartment. Arturo and Katrina started to panic a little bit more. So on July 1st, Katrina ended up renting another apartment on the first floor of a house. And the sole purpose for that apartment was to store the freezer with Shannon's remains.
Stop.
It was an empty apartment
Perfectly
with a
logical.
freezer in it. And on July 4th, Arturo bought a new freezer from Walmart with money that Katrina had given him, because I don't think he had a fucking dollar to his name. He's like, here, baby, go buy a freezer for your ex girlfriend's body so we can put it in the living room.
What was the long term plan here? Just continuing to buy freezers until the end of time?
I guess. I don't know. Just till, I don't know if they were eventually going to try and find a place to bury her, like or
Damn. Okay.
always have a deep freeze. I don't know.
Well, these two are among the smartest, so I'm certain they had a plan.
Yes. When they learned that police were getting search warrants for their properties, they really fucking panicked. And this is when Arturo, aka Anthony, asked his friends if he could move the freezer to their basement. Because he was
Ah,
like,
okay.
eventually they're going to come search this apartment. The only thing in it is a fucking locked freezer. They're going to look inside. In the interrogation videos that I have already mentioned, you can tell that Katrina and Arturo thought they were just fucking smart and fooling everyone, but
Really?
they really sucked at covering their tracks and concealing evidence,
I
as
kind of want to
we've
see these videos
covered.
now.
Yeah, because he's just like, he's an asshole, and he's just like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Like, just being a dick. And
Oh,
then
sure.
Katrina's like, what freezer? What freezer? And it's just like, calm down. I hate you.
She sounds delightful.
Yeah, she should come to a barbecue with us. No, actually not, because she'd be like, I'll bring the meat. And I'd be like, no, you
No,
fucking
no,
won't,
you
girl.
won't.
When investigators searched the apartment that Katrina had rented to specifically store this freezer, there were drag marks on the
Stop.
hardwood floors that
Just
showed
stop.
exactly where the
Oh my
freezer had been
God.
sitting and where it had been dragged out of the apartment. Like,
It's like they Crayola crayoned a fucking map. X
right.
marks the spot. Like,
Throw a rug under that thing, you
yes.
fucking idiots. God. So you can see, like, clearly the path that this freezer was dragged out of the apartment. Arturo also left behind a suitcase that he had used to move the bags of Shannon's remains. So I'm sure there was some DNA and other shit in that suitcase that they're just like, bro, goddamn. Like,
For sure.
Shannon's body ended up in 4 different locations
Oh
before it was
my God.
discovered because they just kept bouncing it around.
Oh my
I don't know how
God.
long they thought they could get away with the murder, like you'd said, like, and what
Yeah,
their
what was the long con
long-term
here?
goals were. Yeah, but there was just, like, so much evidence against these dumb assholes. Like, they
All the effort they put into moving the body, renting apartments, buying deep freezers, they could have just in an afternoon, like just bury the body.
just fucking dumb, dumb, dumb. So besides the icky emotions that stem from a dramatic love triangle
No
just on their
kidding.
own,
Yeah.
like, what was the motive for Shannon's murder? So in a nutshell, basically Arturo was a small-time drug dealer and a wannabe rapper
No, stop. Just stop.
who
Oh my
mooched off women and took advantage of their feelings toward him, just
God.
took
He sounds
everything that he
like
could from them. He had an
class A.
extensive criminal record of nonviolent crimes, but he'd been in prison before and had a hard time getting and keeping an actual job. He just thought he was this total badass and
Oh
wanted to
my God.
live a thug lifestyle, but he was completely worthless. And Shannon's life was moving in a really positive direction. She finished cosmetology school and was excited to start her career. And she was done with Arturo and his shit. He was abusive, he was dragging her down. She knew she deserved better. And he was ultimately just bitter that she was having success in life. And when he learned that she didn't want to be with him anymore, he wasn't having it. He needed her to support him and house him
Mm,
and have a
hmm.
car to borrow. He wasn't going to lose control of her and her things that he took advantage of. So
But
he
he
killed
couldn't get
her.
that from Katrina, or he wanted it, he wanted both.
Probably both. I don't know. I think in his mind, he was like, we can milk this for as long, I mean, until they
Ah,
find her somewhere. Like, we can continue to live in her apartment till we get evicted, have her car, whatever. And basically just wanted to let her continue to support him even after she was dead. Like, he is an evil, manipulative
mm-hmm.
asshole.
Was Katrina involved in the planning, or was she just kind of swept up in this?
Well, it's all a little loosey goosey, but I don't know that how planned it was. I don't know that Arturo picked the time that he was going to kill her, or maybe he just got pissed off and was like, you're not leaving me, whatever. And it was
Mm,
more spontaneous. I don't think Katrina knew necessarily that he was going to kill her, but like the second he needed help, she was there. And but I mean, she very well could have been standing right next to him while he was murdering her. I have no idea.
okay. Okay.
It didn't seem like there was anything on the front end, like as
Okay.
far as preparation or planning, that he was intending on killing her, because I think they would have done a much better job of covering their tracks.
If there was some
And
sort of premeditated planning,
right, but then I
you're
think
giving
it
them a
was
lot of
like
credit.
shit. But I think it was just kind of like shit, I killed her and now I need help. Katrina Layton initially agreed to a really, really sweet fucking plea deal for her cooperation in the case if she agreed to testify against Arturo, of course. Like, that was the deal. But after all of this, the deal that was offered by the prosecution meant that she would only get probation and not have to serve any jail time.
Whoa.
Right? I was like, I'm sorry. And of course, Shannon's family was like, what the fuck? So she ended up being released from custody without bond.
Stop.
Yeah. But don't worry, Carrie, because Smarty Pants fucked up and she ruined that deal for herself.
Good. Fuck.
Because Andrew Herman agreed to cooperate fully with investigators and told them how and where Shannon was killed. So he like laid it all
Okay.
out.
He was like, nah,
And
bitch, this is what
yeah,
happened.
he said that he had agreed to help dismember Shannon's body because he basically was scared of Arturo and was worried about his own safety. Based on his testimony, it was determined that Katrina Layton had lied about what happened and about her and
No.
Arturo's involvement in the crimes in her statements to detectives. So
What? Katrina
she
would
was
never do
just
something like that.
right, no. But she was just kind of like, I didn't do anything, and Arturo didn't do anything. What?
What freezer?
Yeah. And Andrew Herman was like, no, here's what I did. Here's what Arturo did. Shannon was handing me fucking trash bags so I could cover the walls in her garage. Like, he laid out, here's what he did. Here's what she did. Here's what I
Mm-hmm.
did. The truth. The prosecution also learned that she was still in contact with Arturo while he was in prison when
Oh
she's
my
supposed to be
gosh.
testifying. Fucking idiots. A plea deal only works if you tell the truth, dummy. So her deal was vacated.
What a dummy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So when it was all said and done, 4 people were charged in Shannon's murder. 28-year-old Andrew Herman pleaded guilty to charges of engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity,
Oh my
abuse
God.
of a corpse, and drug trafficking. I believe that was kind of a separate
Sure.
charge, but it was all lumped
All
together.
wrapped up into
And he
one.
was sentenced he was sentenced to 12 years in prison. I picture that they were like, we need to search your house. Oh, that's a sweet machete there. I'm sure that's the murder weapon. Also, what's this giant bag of coke or whatever like next to it? Who knows? I don't know what actually happened, but and his wife, 27-year-old Michelle, I may butcher this name, but Ihlenfeld, I'm not sure how you say it, was charged with racketeering,
What?
intimidating a witness, and
What?
obstruction of justice for lying to a grand jury. She was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison with
Oh my
5
God.
years of probation following her release. And I couldn't really find much information about what happened, but she obviously lied. After lying to investigators and having her plea deal revoked, 36-year-old Katrina Layton pled guilty to 8 felony counts, including tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice, and abuse of a corpse. She was not charged for the murder or dismemberment of Shannon. Her charges were based on the impersonation of Shannon to cover up the
Oh,
crimes.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it was kind of more her involvement after the fact. So she was sentenced to 18 years in prison for those charges. Don't love that. She was involved with the murder. Like,
100%.
I feel like there should have been charges related to that, but it's 18 years she's
People
off the streets,
accessory
so
after the fact
whatever.
get more than that.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally, 33-year-old Arturo, that's what I'm calling him now, Arturo Novoa, pleaded guilty to 24 counts of tampering with evidence,
24
6
counts.
counts of abuse of a corpse,
Oh my
3
God.
counts of illegal use of food stamps, 3 counts of possession of criminal tools, 4 counts of trafficking marijuana. Again, not sure where that came in. 1 count of grand theft of a motor vehicle, and 1 count of engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity. I mean, there was like, I forget, like 40 some felony charges. In October of 2021, he was sentenced to 48 years to life for the murder and dismemberment of Shannon Graves. Following an appeal due to an error made during his sentencing, it was something stupid like certain charges shouldn't have been combined or whatever. Like, I
Hmm.
started to read it and I was like, whatever, I don't fucking whatever. I'll just summarize it with some bullshit. But he was resentenced to 43 years to life
Oh,
in
okay.
February of 2022. So, really hoping that he just stays in prison for the rest of his life because he seems to have no remorse for what he did. And I think he's a piece of shit. Finally, for all of the animal lovers listening,
Yeah,
Molly,
Molly.
Shannon's beloved pit bull, was taken in by her sister Debbie,
Oh, good.
who loves having the reminder of her little sister with her. Because Debbie actually pretty much raised Shannon. Like they were incredibly close. She was kind of like a daughter to her.
Oh,
So
fuck.
she now has Molly. I don't know if Molly's still alive, or
Yeah, it's been
but
9 years.
she was thriving with her aunt. So
Oh, I'm happy to hear that.
um yeah, that made me happy because I was immediately like, what happened to
Yeah,
Molly?
what about Molly?
But anyway,
Hmm.
so that is the just really sad and frustrating, senseless case of the murder of Shannon Graves.
She sounds like she had a ton of potential, a ton
Yeah.
of motivation, a ton of go make it for herself kind of thing. And I don't know, just 28, just having life cut so short.
I mean, Shannon had a little bit of a rough past. I think she'd gotten into some trouble and just was hanging out with some kind of rough people that she got wrapped up in some stuff. And I didn't want to go into it because it didn't matter. It had nothing to do with who she was or her
Mm-hmm.
character. But like she had really turned her life around and
Mm,
she knew her value. She knew that Arturo was not good enough for her. And I
mm,
think she was like ready to fucking cut ties, cut the umbilical cord with him, and just like quit raising a little man baby
mm,
who didn't appreciate her at all
mm-mm.
and move on, have a career that she was excited about. And then he just was like, nope, you're doing great. I'm not. And you're not going to go be with anybody else. I'm not going to let you out from under my thumb, and just stripped all of that from her. And it's just so sad and frustrating. And the fact that another female either helped cover up or was involved with the murder of another female just because she wanted some piece of crap to herself, who was going to turn around and break up with her again when he found some new chick and come crawling back just because he needed money, basically, is what it comes down to.
Do we know what happened to Katrina's two kids? Are
I
they
don't.
safe? Fuck.
But I hope that they're doing well and are being well cared for. So,
Yeah.
on that sad note, I'm going to go chug from the bottle of THC drink. I'm just kidding. But I'm probably going to go have a snack. So,
Yeah. I wouldn't mind a snack.
on that note, goodbye, Carrie.
Goodbye, Jamie.
Hey, Toggle Tits!
Roundhouse to the nip. Pew pew. That's a handsome woman.
I know, I was like, yay.
And then he said,
Way to go, you dipshit.
I don't.
Yeah, so feel free to make fun of them because they're all assholes. Okay.
Box checked.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, well, you know what? Fine, go. I don't care. I don't care.